Okay. How do we know? Okay.
Why?
It says live. Um,
All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you very much for joining our live. Um, yes. So tonight we're here on a Friday night to talk to you all about economic recovery or economics. Um, so we'll wait around a little bit just for a couple other people to join our live. But yes, this live will include drinks while we talk about economic strategy. So get comfortable, get seated. You can find the economic strategy document online. So if you're not familiar with it, you can familiarize yourself with it. And in a couple of minutes, while we have a little more people tuning in, we will get started.
awesome. Awesome. Okay.
All right.
Hi, Ella.
Hi,
You
Ella.
took a power nap, I hope.
All right. So we have about a couple people online at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm Ella.
Just gonna wait
701.
for a few
Yeah.
more. I was very, very surprised with the amount of people that we are expecting to tune in. I'm very excited.
Yes. Thank you very, very much to everyone who committed to joining us on this live. We appreciate that. And I think we'll just go ahead
Hi,
and jump right
Becca.
into it. Hi, Becca. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. So we'll start off with quickly introducing Heritage Education Network. So Heritage Education Network is a non-profit organization. We are 4 women who make up the executive membership of this organization. We are all archaeologists and heritage professionals. So our organization is very new. It was founded in April as a sort of response to COVID-19. And the aim of our organization is to facilitate sustainable development in communities, for businesses, for organizations within the cultural and creative sector. We recognize and see these persons as key stakeholders to the maintenance of culture. And through our organization, we provide educational support, we provide online classes, we provide business development strategies, and information, and we host live videos such as this. So that's sort of the variety of stuff that we provide through our organization so far, and we're growing. At this moment, we are accepting volunteers, and we have our very first live with our very first volunteer, Alexya. And yeah, I'll hand it over to April, who will introduce Miss Alexya.
Thank you, Sylvia. And also, if you would like to be a part of our mailing list, head on over to heritagebelize.org, sign up for our mailing subscription so that you don't miss all of the latest information that we have on our website. We are also on Instagram, so you can follow us there, where we have posts almost every single day. We try to keep you guys as updated as possible. And again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really, really appreciate all of the support that everyone has been giving. And we also would like to thank everyone that has become our sponsors and our donors towards our Heritage Education Network. You can also head over to our website to see more information about that. We post about it almost every day. For every $20, you receive a To the Mountain book, which was written by our very own Sylvia Bate and Rebecca Friedel. And you can also check them out on Fahina Outreach Archaeologists. So thank you guys so much for everything. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker for tonight, Miss Alexya Vida Perez. Alexya is an economist and the perfect person to talk about our discussion for tonight. And she received her Bachelor of Arts in Economics from John Carroll University in the United States. She received her Master of Science degree in Developmental Studies at the University of Glasgow in Scotland, the UK. She currently works in economics, cooperation, and trade affairs. what brought Alexya over to join and volunteer with us is her passion for education. She really wanted to figure out a way how to share information, valuable information, to her beloved population in Belize, and she sought us out. And here she is now talking to you guys a little bit about the economic recovery strategy of Belize. So without further ado, Miss Alexya Pérez.
Hi, good night. Thank you, ladies, for having me.
Thank you, Alexya. To facilitate your presentation, let me just share my screen.
We would also like to remind everyone watching tonight that if you have any questions or comments, we will get to those after Alexya's presentation. So thank you guys for tuning in once again.
You can leave your questions in the comments and we will address them, because this is a question and answer series. We'll just go through the presentation and then we'll get to the questions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, good night, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I'd like to start off by saying that, to reiterate what you said earlier, that I am passionate about, I think that education is one of the most important aspects towards contributing to growth and development in a country. And since I'm not a teacher or in that form of education, I would like to be able to share the things that I have learned with other people, because economics is something that affects our daily lives. We contribute to the economy and we gain from the economy, but a lot of us don't know how it works. So this is really for people who want to know about economics a little bit more in the country, to be able to apply it to their daily lives, in their workplace, and if they own a business or not. So I'm not here to give the solution for all our economic COVID problems, but just to be able to answer some questions and for us to understand what's really happening in our country right now at the moment.
All right.
So I'll start off by saying that the government of Belize releases a lot of economic information, and one of them being the Economic Recovery Strategy for Belize, which was launched on July 31st, 2020. It starts off with a few words from our Prime Minister, Honorable Gumbaro, and in it he had two things that really were key to me, which is agriculture is holding us on, and tourism has collapsed. And really, these are the main things that we have been hearing about and that we have been focused in during this time, during the pandemic and during quarantining, and trying to think about ways to restart our economy. It then goes on to talk about some of the funding that we have already received to mitigate the issue at the moment. So what we have is an MSME program. The phase 2 of unemployment relief program is starting. And if you go to the pie chart, then I can break down how so the COVID funds investments are being, we've received so far, according to the strategy plan, is that we've received 233 million Belize dollars to just mitigate the issue at the moment. We have been investing it in health. About 5% has been used to invest in to strengthen our health system at this time because we will need it. The other 60% has been used for social programs like the unemployment relief program, food baskets, the Boost program. If people don't really know about the Boost program, it's a really good program that we have here in Belize that's been hailed in the Caribbean as a good strategy that's happening. What is it that people get some sort of financial contribution for doing certain things that will help our country in the long run. For example, if you're in the Boost program and you're pregnant and you go to a farm to get a checkup, then you get some financial compensation for that. If you have a child and the child has perfect attendance, you get a financial compensation for that. And you might think, people might think like, oh well, this doesn't make any sense um because they're getting paid for maybe something that is expected of them or we should do. But really, having mothers go to clinics for checkups has helped to reduce infant mortality rates. Also, compensating families for having their children attend school has reduced the chances of of children being asked to work to help their families financially. So it does have its cons and its pros. And 50 million also to social protection, which I'm not sure they didn't really state exactly what that meant in the or what the social protection project is, but it is towards at the moment towards assisting families or individuals. And then we have about 35% of the COVID relief fund going towards businesses, which to help micro, small, medium enterprises, 16 millions to farmers, and 50 to agriculture support. So I think like what stands out here right now that I'm seeing is that in the business section that is helped, like really what's really most of it is intended for agriculture, and only 15 million is really for people or for who own micro, small, medium enterprises that have been affected by COVID. So that's a little bit alarming, because we have about 40% of our GDP was because of tourism. You know, tourism contributed a lot to GDP, and now in this time of COVID, like it mentioned in speech, tourism has collapsed. So what we really don't have, for so long, these people that are in the tourism sector were contributing to the growth and economy of this country, and now really 15 million is being allotted to not only tourism but to also other organizations or other businesses that, you know, contributed to the economy to try and help mitigate their losses at the time. So that's pretty low.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there, Alexia, especially because sort of the people who we are doing a lot of outreach to and not a lot of networking to are the people sort of in that culture and tourism sector, like the tour guides, the artisans, the small business owners, you know, concession stand owners, tour operators, the small tour operators. So thank you very much for putting those figures, you know, in a way that people can sort of see that distribution, and for people in the tourism industry to see what the investment funds look like for them.
Yeah, and it's also important to note, like, you know, this, and I'm gonna say another disclaimer is that whatever I speak about right now, it's not to look back or attack our current government. It's to look forward come November, whether there's an election. So whether we stay under the same administration or we have new administration, we're gonna have a new leader nonetheless. So this whatever I'm saying, it's really to you know, make people aware of what are the things that we can demand from our government, whoever that may be, and to be able to know that it is our responsibility to take this information and then ask for what we deserve.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
And to really take a sound look at the economic climate. And I know we've been talking about tourism recovery, and not only the cultural tourism sector, but, you know, birding, the natural history tours, stuff like that. And this sort of both the state of our economy and the plans to sort of revive the sectors of our economy that were solely dependent on tourism, you know, that these discussions or this document is has direct implications for that. So it's very much also to gauge where we are at and where we can head, based on what the government is proposing and based on, you know, what we can do for ourselves as the private sector.
Right. And I also want to thank you so much for sharing the information in such a way that our audience can definitely see for themselves and understand it quite vividly, especially the part about agriculture. That to me is still incredible that we've invested so much in our agriculture. And I think it's good that the Belizean population understand that. So thank you so much, Alexia.
Yeah, and also one of the things that we need to demand is transparency, because we see 233 million Belize dollars. That is a lot of money. So demanding, like, we don't know how much of that was gone to pay, administrative fees, how much of that was to pay people to actually run these programs, which is understandable, and how much of the money like actually went to helping these people and these organizations. So it's also being aware of, like, these are the numbers, but we also need to ask questions and ask for things to be more transparent.
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely.
And then the document goes into the economic recovery goals and objectives, right?
Yes. So they offer 5 solutions, which is starts off with supporting business recovery, creating a business climate for growth, improving government efficiency, strengthening our productive sector, and growing our economy. And I'd like to say that all these things that were talked about, they did go into a certain amount of detail, where it did talk about like what specific parts of each sector are going to be improved on, but also it wasn't as detailed to tell you like this is when this plan is going to start or when we're actually going to do these things.
Okay.
And I think the Prime Minister himself mentioned that it's really like on the new government that's coming in to be able to take the advice on this plan and take it forward.
Yeah. All right. So I believe we're going to go through the individual strategies.
Yes. So for supporting business recovery, we have the MSME program, which is underway, I think, at the moment. There's also like an adoption fund for biosecurity and biosecurity guidelines, which is very important because it's really directly being made because of the implications of COVID, because it's supposed to help reduce and remove risks or harm to the people and the environment when it comes to diseases and also natural things like pests and floods and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's also they're saying suspension of tax penalties for businesses, which is something you would like to look into if you have a business, to see what things that you can be exempted from paying. Review the Labor Act, which I believe has recently been done. If you would like to touch on that a little bit more.
Just in terms of what was released earlier, I'm sort of looking at contracts, the contract arrangement that can be entered to between employees and employers. But that has been released by the government press office earlier this week. So if you are a small business owner, this is the time to sort of look at what is available to you now in terms of retaining staff. If you're an employee and you are looking, I guess, at different sort of creative ways to maybe maintain your employment within this climate, then those amendments are something for you to look at this moment.
And we can share those, right, Sylvia?
Yeah, we can share those links and make those available on our page.
Yeah, and so also like improving creation of new products and markets by integrating into digital economy. And that's what we've really been seeing right now. It's that people have been very creative with the businesses that are up and running. Everything, people want everything. All these services are going. You were able to apply for a license via WhatsApp. Everybody is really transforming their businesses and making it more digital. Then it goes on to creating a business climate for growth, which I kind of like to feel that creating a business climate for growth and improving government efficiency kind of felt to me like both making the government more efficient. And it talks about, fast tracking infrastructure projects, lands department, central building authority, environment, tax administration reforms, and all these areas that to me feel like, without being too blunt, is the government doing its job. So I think that I like that they have outlined that there are specific areas where they need to touch on, but it's really something that should have already been happening. Nonetheless, that it is good that there is a plan for these things to be changed and implemented. And we have to realize that, the at this time when the economy is this bad, and how it is, with our borders closed, trade down, it's important to think that we should run the government a bit like how we run a business. And I know that sounds very scary to people, like, oh, well, a business is for profit. But if a government runs like a business, then it will run for profit and then use that profit to be reinvested into the country, like a business would, to reinvest to make sure the business is prosperous and growing. So I don't think that it's a bad thing when we think we should run government like we're running a business, because it's being able to put it back into social safety nets, being able to put it back into education, being able to put it back into infrastructure. And that's why I think that like the creating a business climate for growth also tells us the areas of where the government will be touching. So it's kind of telling us these are where we'll be investing, and this is where the jobs might be. So if you would like to take a look at the section and see that where you can fall under, or where you can be able to think about vacancies that will be available, it will probably be under these areas, because that's where they're looking to be able to create that climate for growth and be able to make the government more efficient. But it's also to know that if you work there at the moment, then it's about knowing that change is coming, that that people, there needs to be a reformation of these government institutions, so that they're able to function more efficiently, so that they're able to provide these services that people are paying for with their taxes.
And I think one of the key words there is transparency. I think that if they are as transparent with how the monies is flowing and where your tax dollars are going, then the idea of your government running like a business would not be so scary to the wider population. And then also, I believe you touched a little bit about how we can make those investments plausible to the general population. And also, I think you mentioned the word service. And I think that a lot of the times that people forget that when you are in government, you are in service to your population, not the other way around. So I like that you use those keynotes. Sylvia, you wanted to say?
No, just to say that sort of my takeaway from this is, as Alexya rightly mentioned, these are the areas that are mentioned in this document that will probably have a stronger level of job security within the future, within the very near future. And we are cognizant that it will take a while for the tourism industry to sort of rebound to the point where it previously was. So if you are a small tour guide or a small tour operator, if you are artisan and you are looking seriously at sort of diversifying or taking on new skills and looking at different areas for employment, look at the pointers under this sort of under the area for creating a business climate for growth, because these are the areas where you're going to have jobs. We're talking about large infrastructure projects and sort of facilitating that. So what type of skills do you have or can you train for that will make you job ready for these infrastructure projects? We're seeing, like, for example, right now, road construction is still happening. The Caracol Road is being built. We're going to have a new road that will link Sartineja to Corozal Town. That's really exciting for that area. There's infrastructure development happening on the Coastal Road. These are the areas that have jobs at the moment. And the large infrastructure programs, both government-based and private projects, are sort of one area, not the only area, but one area where there are job security, job security at this moment. So for me, for the people who are listening right now and maybe in that sort of tourism industry and really looking on and saying, okay, where can I diversify to? I mean, agriculture, you've seen there is finance for that, but also for these infrastructure development projects. If farming or fishing isn't for you at whatever level, then, look to these areas. So I think that's sort of one of the key takeaways for this section for me.
And then if we move on to improving government efficiency, one of the things that pops up to me first is, e-governance platforms, which really in this time right now, if we look to other countries, everyone is going digital. Like you're able to get your license online, get government documents online, like everything is being online, and it saves people time, it saves the government time. And I think it also looks towards reducing corruption, because if I go into a place, like I can't say, oh well, like, you know what, I'll pay some money to be able to fast track my document because I want it now and I know I have connections, because everything will be online, so everything will have to be working like a clockwork, and it also you're paying online. All of these things is important that our government can transform and move towards these things. And in this in itself, it's going, I was so surprised to see, or not surprised but happy to see that in a time where we needed to take something digital, like the unemployment relief program, that went up very quickly. So we do have brilliant people in this country that are able to do these codings, that are able to do this, the technical part of these things, to be able to transform and not having to be waiting in line longs from 8 a.m. I feel like it is really moving towards being more efficient. And also I think that in something, because we have, if a government really wanted to, they could show us where each dollar is going. They could create a program that will say, you know what, this was given to administrative fees, this is what it was used to run this is what it was used to run a program. And that would be the best thing for someone to come out and say, we will do this, because then you instill trust in people. And that's what we need. We need to be able to trust that our leaders are able to take this plan and really put it into action, at the same time showing us what's happening. One of the other things that says is developing strong and enforceable regulations to reduce corruption in transactions through the formation of private public labor committee to review regulations. I think that reducing corruption is something that it's so like easily thrown out there, like, yes, reduce corruption. But really, it takes someone strong enough to say, in this time, when you run a government, like a company, you say, you know what? We don't want the perks. We don't want the new cars. We don't want the high salaries. We don't want the stipends for housing and stipends for this. And it's really them having to be aware that these things are no longer, they're not going to get it anymore, because the people don't have it. People are to the point of maybe even starvation. We don't really know the data, or we're not seeing it maybe, but it's there. People are struggling. People don't have jobs. People can't pay for food. And it's really taking someone that has a civil duty to the country and not a career to, make your way up and have a new house at the end of 5 years and have land here and starting a business that will then take you further on. But it's really someone who says, like, no new cars and give me a smaller wage. And other leaders are doing it. Leaders all over the world are doing this and showing us what it takes, and people there are demanding it, and we aren't really doing that.
Yeah. I think for these areas of improving government, I mean, I do hear and appreciate, and I'm sure that a lot of people listening also appreciate that commitment that the government has made. And like you mentioned, whether we are, within a new political party or remain with this political party, it's up to our future leaders to sort of stick with this plan or see this plan come to fruition. I think for me, I keep seeing references to e-governance platforms and e-platforms and sort of that digital landscape. And I think if you are someone in the heritage tourism industry and you are not on some sort of digital platform, now is the time to get online. We are seeing that the government is making a commitment to moving online, but we are also seeing that sort of this move to the digital era is being fast tracked in Belize because of COVID. With these commitments, the future of Belize can be, or most likely will be, you are paying stuff online. You are not handling hard cash as much. You are doing a lot of applications or bookings online. You are facilitating people online. I know a significant number of Belizeans are on Facebook, but now is the time where you can explore the other functionalities that Facebook have that allow you to run a business, to book appointments, look at ways in which you can receive payment, send payment, sort of market yourself online and really have that strong online presence, because the government is telling you this is the future that Belize is moving toward if we want to remain competitive within the region, within the global economy. So if you are on Facebook and you sort of have your personal profile, take that time out, make a business profile. One of the most important things I cannot stress just by reading this document is to sort of go online and find yourself, make yourself competitive, visible on that digital platform, because that is the way that our country is moving. And your government is telling you this within this document. So if it happens in a year or two, you don't be surprised, because it's been said in the document, we're moving towards that. And videos like this serve to sensitize, just by reading what is here, what the future for Belize will look like.
And just to kind of piggyback a little bit on what you're saying, Sylvia, the internet, it moves at a fast pace.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to make yourself be known on that internet platform and also adapt and move with it.
Yeah.
And in Facebook, yes, everybody has it. Everybody, so far that I know, uses it. But now it's, do you have Instagram? Do you have Twitter? Do you have all of these other platforms?
Are you on TikTok?
Yeah.
Do you have a website? Yeah.
So you have to move just as quickly and adapt to it. And I know that it's a little bit scary. I mean, Sylvia, you and I,
we're not
tech savvy like that. We're not on social media, and so we are trying. And by us learning, we're helping you learn as well.
Yeah.
And we realize that Belize might not be as equipped as we want it to be right now, but I believe that we are getting there. You can do almost anything through your banking online at this point in time.
Yeah.
And whether it be on a website or an app, you can pay your bills, you can deposit money, you can move money. And Belize doesn't have PayPal as yet, but I feel like that's where we're going. That's the way to the world at this point in time.
And ensuring that Belize also isn't left behind. So making sure that these institutions are in place, that we don't get left behind. Tourists, a lot of people in the U.S. now, they just tap, to make payments, and so they come to Belize and they have to handle cash again, and sometimes it is inconvenient for them. And if we want to keep up with the times, we also have to be able to have these institutions that can allow for people to have access to these things.
Yeah. And again, like you mentioned, part of that is a commitment on the behalf of the government to ensure that legal and these infrastructures are in place. But another part is the onus does also fall on the private sector to, one, demand that, but two, to also ensure that you are ready for those systems, or that you find a way to use those systems. Right now, basically anyone who is in IT is your best friend. People who are in IT lend a hand to people in some of the small in other organizations or fields that have maybe not had that level of interaction with digital platforms. So, we talk a lot about coming together for recover, but these are some of the ways in which you come together and recover. You help each other. I saw last week Nocturnal Belize offering free logo designs for small businesses who were just started up during the COVID period, and that's someone with graphic design skill and technology who realizes that they have this area of expertise, who had a little bit of time and who voluntarily gave that time to help some small businesses grow and to elevate their products. This is the climate that we are in. That's how you can help from a point of the private sector, but also realizing that there is requirements or needs from our government as well.
What I see happening a lot on social media is small businesses marketing for other small businesses.
Yeah.
And that I feel is a very extraordinary way of helping as well. Because if you are a small business with a large social media platform, you are able to uplift those small businesses that are just starting. And I think we saw that grow immensely during COVID. And I also imagine that while we're talking about all these investments and we're talking about where the government is putting the monies, I feel like once we reach this new digital age or continue to adapt to a new digital age, these numbers will change drastically. That's just my humble opinion.
Yeah.
And I guess without really thinking about it, we have moved into what falls under strengthening our productive sector, which is restarting tourism. Which when this document was released at that time, we were still planning to open the international airport on August 15th. So it was talking about restarting tourism, paperless entries, second home for retirees. And it also has a section for agriculture, which is like give automatic 12-month extensions on all licenses. There's a secure, accessible financing for climate change adoption, which is the Green Climate, which I believe is the Green Climate Fund, whereby they're trying to really invest or help companies or agriculture farmers invest in technology that will use to strengthen our agriculture sector. And so in a sustainable way. And so here it really is talking about how the government can assist people in making it a better working environment for the productive sectors such as tourism and agriculture. And what we have to keep in mind here is that it's not only when the government is becoming more efficient and when it's creating this climate for growth and strengthening our productive sector, it's not only doing it for the local people, it's also to be able to be more attractive to foreign investors. And so that's Belize has a very protectionist way of operating when it comes to trade, and that has its cons and it has its pros, because we can say, well, we're not going to import fruits or vegetables that we already have, which makes sense. But then that closes the door to being able to say, well, if another country is saying, well, if we can't, we can't export these things to you, then we won't import other things to you. So just finding a balance. And at the end of the day, these people that make these decisions are people. They're not robots. So it's having people in the government that will represent us to really be able to negotiate and make terms that will help Belize and help us grow and help protect our people. And at the same time, maybe open up a little more in different sectors to be able to make the trade fair, because each country is looking out for itself. So in really making the climate of the business climate more attractive is also opening up to more it says second home retirees, tourism incentives, and these things bring people that also need to sustain themselves when they're here. So they also look into maybe starting businesses and being aware that yes, it's tough, because sometimes we say, well, foreign people come to our country and they do things and they are taking away businesses from Belizeans. And yes, it's something that we have to really, there's so many facets to it that there's not one easy way of saying like yes or no. you have to take each case by case. But in some sense, it is good because these people, they bring in machinery. We bring in foreign investment, foreign currency, and these things. So but we can't just say that these things are being done for us, but it's also to make ourselves more attractive to foreign investment, which is foreign currency is what we need to keep operating as a developing country.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and sort of moving into strengthening our productive sectors. I think we see a lot of tourism here, and I think some of our followers are definitely from the tourism industry. So moving on into that.
Go.
Yeah, they also talk about multi-destination agreement, which I saw was very interesting with Belize and Cuba. And Cuba already has a multi-destination agreement with Jamaica. And it's just being able to facilitate like flights and things like that make it easier for someone to say, well, if I'm in Cuba already, might as well, go to Belize because it's so nearby and the flight isn't so expensive or something like that. And just being able to really take advantage of being a Caribbean and Central American country. And I think a lot of times we pride ourselves in saying like, yes, we're part of Central America and yes, we're part of the Caribbean, but we really aren't taking advantage of being that country. And there are some people that are taking advantage of us being that country, but I think Belize itself isn't taking advantage of that to be able to say, let's grow together. Let's help each other grow. There's also a multi-destination agreement that working with Taiwan Air Services agreement, which I thought was very interesting. We know that Belize's relationship is very strong with Taiwan, and we have a lot of Belizean people that are living in Taiwan because of scholarships and work and being able to do that.
And sort of what my takeaway for that is, if you don't speak English and Spanish and you are in the tourism industry, perhaps now is the time to pick up a second language to get some sort of training in that, because multi-destination agreements could mean larger influx in tourists who do not speak English as their first language. To diversify, to remain competitive, it would be in your interest in the tourism industry to pick up Spanish as a second language if you already, if you don't already possess that skills. Similarly, with the agreement with Taiwan, it might mean that we have, an influx of Taiwanese visitors, which would mean that you have to become sort of familiar with that region. There are classes in Belmopan in Mandarin if you want to go that far. But, when we talk about remaining competitive or sort of diversifying or strengthening our skills, these are some of the areas in which you strengthen, your skills. It might be that this is a time to reach out more to the Taiwanese community in Belize because you might need their assistance either within the near future.
Right. And, Sylvia, I'm glad you touched upon that because our neighbors in Central America are already doing that. Yeah. You have at the Regional Language Center at the University of Belize, we have so many students that come to learn English as a second language to do exactly that, to become more competitive on the global scale when it comes to tourism, when it comes to archaeology, when it comes to business and other topics such as other fields that would require that you become bilingual. And I think that even though Belize does carry a large percent of Spanish-speaking people, being bilingual is still very rare in Belize. And so, yeah, you have to get on that right away. Our neighbors are not wasting time on that.
Yes. Now would be a good time if you have not been reading the Tourism Digest to, start doing that. Look at, where tourists are coming from, visitors are coming from. Look at, what their specific needs are, what languages they speak, what's the culture in that area. I see that under the Tourism Restart, they also mentioned that the Tourism Master Plan will be refit to sort of incorporate what the tourism industry is now looking like in post-COVID times, or what it will look like in post-COVID time. So there are resources out there that the government of Belize puts out. Use those to your advantage, but don't wait until those resources are sort of out there as well to begin. Now is the time that you follow the news, you follow sort of these snippets that the government of Belize puts out, and you take that and put it into action.
Absolutely. And just to piggyback on that, all of these documents that the government release are available for free online on social media pages. You just have to, look for them. A document such as this one is right there and available for you to download to your phone, to your computer. It is all free of access to the general public.
Yeah, and not only resources available from the government, but also resources available from organizations such as Heritage Education Network Belize. I mean, we have a lot of information out there for people to be able to know and be aware of the things going on, which is why I guess I wanted to be a part of this group and volunteer to be able to give an economic perspective to the organization. But I guess if we move on, then it goes into growing our economy, which they talk about real estate and construction. And one of the really big things that popped up to me during this was remove central bank approval requirements to purchase real estate and own company shares. So it really it makes you aware that the being able to grow the economy, we as we noticed with when we're trying to encourage local tourism, local tourism itself cannot sustain us. So we do need foreign investment to be able to help grow our economy. And knowing that maybe the central bank, which I think they mentioned was involved in some of this plan, knowing that making the banking through the central bank easier, making way for people to be able to have access to foreign currency and making transactions, and while facilitating it, making it more easy, while also still monitoring it closely to make sure that everything that's happening is legal and in something that we deem safe. Development. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I said absolutely.
Yeah, development international financial service marketing, and then it went into considering alternative financing options for Belize, such as stock market, commodities exchange, and these things, which is very, to me, exciting to think that that Belize could eventually get to that point of maybe having being involved more in stocks and things like that. That would be a great way to start up more investment. And I guess since I've kind of like outlined all the major points that I think are important in this, I think that I do want to touch on that. I know that this is an economic recovery strategy for Belize. However, we haven't really heard about how we're going to invest in education or what is going to happen to education, or what are we going to do for education. And I think that education is key to growing our country, and we need to realize that, and being able to put as much effort as we're putting into the economy, into children and students, and being able to allow people to really to take our most important capital, which is people, and being able to help them grow and help them be able to someday take this information, or be able to someday participate in e-governance, or providing these services and these goods that our country really needs to develop.
All right.
I'm glad you touched on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexya. Just before we move into the questions, I'd like to highlight the acknowledgement page. So with the economic recovery strategy for Belize, the government listed, set of organizations that I guess assisted, but with collaborations and with their expertise in putting together this strategy, which really just is an amalgamation of a lot of the projects that were either in development or in future projects in these organizations. I would suggest to people who are on here, who are on the live, go to these organizations. If you're not already following them on social media, follow them on social media. If you are not already sort of familiar with their websites or what information they provide to the general public, what projects and programs they're bringing on stream, familiarize yourself with it. The BTIA, Hotels Owner Association, the network of NGOs, Central Bank, Beltrade, the Belize Tourism Board. These organizations have been putting out trainings. They've been putting out, employment opportunities, consultancy opportunities. They have their projects and programs that are running through their own pages. They have similar documents that they have put out. BTB and the Ministry of Tourism has put out a lot in terms of the post-COVID or the tourism recovery plan when it comes to COVID. So follow these pages, follow their social media. If you have questions, reach out to them, whether it's a chat or just, give them a call. But, use the resources that are literally at your fingertips because they're online, and make sure you're familiar with it. I mean, there are already small loan incentives out there for small businesses who are just starting up given this COVID time, and also look to the resources that are available through the private sector, like Alexya nicely mentioned for us, because we tend to not say it often. Or sorry, enough. Heritage Education Network has a free resource library. We have put information out there for business development. So if you're a small business owner and you want to develop your Facebook page, and we understand completely, skills area of expertise, knowledge base, time, the ease of access of some of these programs. So we have tutorials for Facebook, which is as basic as it gets. It's free. Tutorials for Canva, which is for graphic design. It's as basic as it gets. It's also for free. Look to other business organizations. Nocturnal, Belize, I mentioned again. Last week and this week, they have been posting free tutorials for Facebook for graphic design. So if you have Photoshop available to you, you can look at their free tutorials as well. So, the public and private sector is out there working to help each other. And a part of the onus does fall on us to just use those tips that are out there. And if you feel like you have expertise that you can give, and you need a platform for it, reach out to these organizations or reach out to us. We do accept volunteers. We want to help as many people as we can to come out of this stronger than how they went in. And we're here for that, and we're also here to take questions.
And just to piggyback, because she mentioned our resource library is available on our website at heritagebelize.org. Please join our mailing list so that you can get access to that resource library, and again, so that you have access to all of this information, so you have access to whenever we're doing our lives and other webinars. And also, yes, Heritage Education Network does cater to help small businesses in tourism grow, but it's not just in tourism. Any small business, if you need any kind of help or any tips, we are here. We offer education series as well. You can just find them on our Facebook page, on our website. Guys, we didn't realize how much this was going to get when we started, and we just want to thank you so much for all of your support. We are so grateful that you have decided to choose us to spend your evening with us tonight, and to learn a little bit about economic recovery. So thank you, guys. We will be taking questions now. So I see some people have already started to post some questions as we were going. I don't know. Yes, there it is. One of our first questions came from our eagle friend, Brighton Cod, who basically wants to know, he said, are we willing to sit down and create the mechanisms to facilitate the growth of those areas, or are we waiting for tourism to rebound? I guess that's a question for Sylvia or Alexya.
Um,
Well, yeah, you could go for it, Alexya. You are
I
a
think
guest
that,
economist.
for with Belize, we've depended on tourism for a long time, and I don't think we have, we have a market for it. We have the resources for it. It would be a shame to have all this beauty, all this, this jewel of Belize, and to not be able to utilize it, not in a way of saying like, oh, we need to make money off of it. It is a resource, so we can do that, but also to preserve it, protect it, to make people more aware of it. So no, we're not, we can't say, you know what, tourism, let's cut it out, let's move on, next, whatever next can help us grow our economy. We still need to, and people, especially because a lot of people's jobs depend on it, but it is also at this, for right now, I think, because the borders are closed, we need to do focus on agriculture. And for a long time, we think to ourselves like, oh, you know what, we're self-sustainable as a country, like we're good, we can feed ourselves, but that's not good enough, because being able to tap into a market, to being able to export those, the agriculture and agro processing products, it's what really is going to help our country develop and grow. So it's not only thinking about in small scale, but I don't think that we can abandon tourism just yet.
I would go so far as saying, for our locals and for our Belizeans out there, or our adopted Belizeans that who may be listening, working at the Institute of Archaeology, coming from an archaeology anthropology background, I don't see sort of tourism, especially when it comes to the archaeological sites, the heritage sites, visiting the museum or the houses of culture. I don't see it as sort of a local, economic strategy. I see it as a way to interact with my culture and my heritage and my identity, the sort of things that make me Belizean. So I don't think we will ever abandon tourism, but I think what we need is a push for local tourism. I'm familiar with the statistics for Belizean visitors to archaeological sites, and it is extremely low, even given that Sundays are free for Belizeans. Persons over 60 can go in for free. Children under 12 years old can go in for free. And this is post-COVID times that I'm talking about. But we have seen, Belizeans rather take a trip to Chatham and see, or into Mexico and see archaeological sites over there, and maybe have never reached Nimlipunit or reached Lobanton. While the tourism industry will rebound, speak positivity to the future, it will rebound. We will have international guests. We don't know where those guests will come from at the moment. That's all dependent on flights and the tourism industry and some of those large negotiations that the government will make on our behalf, because the health of the tourism industry is important to them. We have seen that in their commitment. But whatever the international tourism will look like, local tourism is extremely important, both for the economy of Belize, but also just for that simple interaction with the aspects of the things that make us Belizean. I mean, if you visit Nimlipunit or Lobanton, you are going to pass through wonderful, wonderful, wonderful communities in Toledo, in Sand Creek, to get there. Take some time out, go to a restaurant, experience that culture. And if you don't know where to go, look at Facebook pages. My Mayan Culture Belize has stuff there. Totally Toledo has things online. BTB have things online. Belizean.com have things online that will help you to plan your local tour. So whether or not, when we're not waiting for sort of international tourists, I think a lot of people right now are still trying to do tours, are still trying to keep on with that local tourism, with that local tourism sector. And people are diversifying as well. But no, we're not waiting on tourism, but we know that tourism will always be there and be an important area of our economy.
All right. I think our next question, we were talking about the gap between technology and social media, interactive marketing business. So this next question, I think, basically asks, so how do we bridge that gap from, I guess, technology, social media, interactive marketing to make it more, I guess, accessible to everyone? I'm not sure if that's what you were asking, Mr. William Hilder. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. But I think that one of our co-directors kind of answered his question. But nonetheless, we are providing online resources, like we had mentioned before, and anybody can access it at any time. It is absolutely free. And I think one of the things that we want to take Heritage Education Belize into the future is to offer more education
Yeah.
in diversified fields.
Yeah.
So please, again, log on to our website and check our resource library for more
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, and there's also I know that our organization is working towards that, but there's other government organizations
Mm-hmm.
too, like the BMDC.
Mm-hmm.
They do help with marketing and development, because that's what they're supposed to do, is being able to take especially people in the field of agriculture and agro processing, and helping them to find a way to be able to get online and sell these products, and also labeling and packaging and these things. So there are resources there, and so if more people would want to know about that, they can contact us, or being able to look at these other organizations that do help with that.
Exactly. Beltrade, again, is another great resource. The government of Belize, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, also sometimes advertises opportunities that are accessible to Belizeans regionally. Just yesterday, I saw an application or a call for application go out for a jewelry making course. The government of Belize shared that on their Facebook page. We also shared that on our Facebook page. The application deadline is on Sunday, so if you're thinking of applying, you can go ahead and apply for that. There are people who are artisans in Belize. If you have that expertise, if you have that experience, that background, or if you want to diversify into that, look into those free resources that are available. And we do understand that the internet and electricity really isn't available to a lot of people. I spoke about Toledo. Have done many years volunteer work out west. Our other co-directors have worked up north. We are aware, and I don't know if a lot of Belizeans are aware of this, but there are places in Belize that do not have electricity to this day and age. There are places in Belize that don't have Digicel internet signal. They don't have smart internet signal. What they have is Tigo, because often Guatemalan communities are closer to them than Belizean communities. With the hope for Heritage Education Network, with your support, is to provide outreach to those organizations, to small businesses in those communities, who wouldn't have access to the internet, when it is safe to be in person, to be able to do these trainings in person. Until then, the most we can do from the private sector is to provide these trainings online. And yes, we would advocate, that accessibility to the internet is extremely important, to electricity is extremely important, and there are some districts that are disenfranchised in that sense. We do realize that, but we're trying to bridge the gap as best as we can, and we are always advocating for those communities and those people. And if we know of them, we try to help. If you know of organizations who could benefit from that help, please let us know. We're voluntary. We're here working, volunteering our time, and we try to help as many people as we can.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sylvia. Our next question is kind of a big one. I don't know if it's going to show. I think it all shows. It covers your face, Alexia. I'm so sorry. But so I don't know if you guys can see it there, but Miss Faith is saying that a pie chart that was shown earlier on in this, sorry, Mr. Fate, I'm so sorry. Apologies. A pie chart that was shown earlier on in the showcase stated that the area of health was only given a paltry of 5% of the $23 million cash of funds that the GOB has currently obtained from various sources. Given the mind-blowing rise in COVID-19 cases and how woefully unprepared the nation's health infrastructure is to handle an infection of this size, shouldn't the health sector be among the top two priorities at this time? 5%? Really? Oops.
The tone, I think you really got his message.
Intonation.
Well, 5% does seem pretty low to me. I mean, and it is scary because I don't think that we really had a health system that was prepared for this, and yet maybe we're not equipping them as enough as we should be. But there was an article by the World Economic Forum, I think it was also shared by CNN, from Oxfam, that said that by December, more people could die each day from hunger linked to coronavirus than from the disease itself. So I know that we're maybe not thinking, okay, this is going to happen in Belize. We honestly, we don't know. And maybe if for us, I think we always have a lag in what happens in around the world. So maybe if not December sometime, but it's really alarming to think that, that people could be dying of hunger linked to coronavirus because they don't have jobs and they don't have, money to pay stuff, or, because they're so disconnected from other areas that can help them, that people can die from starvation linked to coronavirus rather than the disease itself. So to me, that is very alarming to think that. This is why thinking about the economy is also important. This is why we need to start thinking about, how we can create a business climate. This is why we need to think about, social safety nets for people to be able to support them in this time, because I think that it would be very, tough to know that more like we have people dying of starvation in Belize, which we probably already do to some extent, and to have that in a bigger scale would be very hard.
Yeah, I agree, and I think right now in this day and age, the times are tough. We're not here to paint you a pretty picture. In this day and age, we understand that the struggle is real, and we know that people are losing their jobs. We know that people are fighting to stay employed. We understand that Belize is in a tough spot. So I don't see any more questions, but I have a question. And one of the things that I came to understand when it came to COVID-19 is that we don't know. You can be asymptomatic, you can be symptomatic to this disease. And one of the things that started to scare me was when our cases began to rise, that our recovery cases remained the same. And just piggybacking on that question about 5% when it comes to health, do you think that eventually we would have to raise that investment just because Belize is a small population and it's going very, very fast in cases. The recovery cases are stagnant. Yes, we don't have as many deaths as yet, but remember, when it comes in to percentage and statistics, we would still be very high on that scale because we have such a small population. So how do you see us going in the future when it comes to health investment?
Well, the thing is that with that $233 million, I think that like it has already been assigned to something and on its way to being spent or spent already. So it's tough to say, you know what, like let's reallocate this and we have other funds for, a lot of people, like when we do get loans from other places, which are loans which we need to pay back. So we need to have an economy that can pay back. So a lot of times these things are directed towards certain things. Like it's like this is for, helping businesses, or this is for agriculture, and they're really assigned, and it's really being able, having a government that can find other institutions that are willing to help towards health. And one thing is, one of the proposed budget for 2020 and 2021 that was released was said that, like, the revenues and grants that Belize was estimated to receive for the budget towards 2020 and 2021 was $1.2 billion, and that's a lot of money. So it's really going back to holding the government institutions like responsible, and being able to know, like, where is this money going to now? How is that money in each of these sectors really being spent?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Do we have time for one more question? Oh.
Yep.
I don't know if that's a question. Is it a question or a statement? It is a statement. But yeah, I wanted to ask you one more question before we log out. It's already been an hour, and I can't even feel the time going off. And our comment section is just booming. I'm so happy that you guys are engaged. This is really exciting. But we talked about foreign investment. Oh, sorry. Right.
We're getting a couple more questions.
Yeah, we're getting a couple more questions. So let's see. This one is also a long one by Mr. Abner Bakab. I'll just show it up here on the screen.
I think before you go to that one, we had one from Francisca, but we can.
Okay, let's do Abner's, and then we'll do Francis, and then it looks like we have a couple more.
Yeah.
So Abner is asking, stating, what I do not understand is how the government does not have any kind of funds apart from a pandemic, natural disasters, etc. Also, Belize is always borrowing or asking for donation from other countries. Where is all the money that Belize makes as a country from our taxes, GST, B tax, hotel taxes, etc.? I think, honestly, Abner, that is a very good question, because it's one of the most common questions asked by the public of Belize on the daily basis. So, Alexya, take it away.
I think I can just repeat myself in saying, demanding this transparency, and not only being on Facebook and saying oh, where's the money, but really calling the government and saying where's the money, and really depending on organizations to talk on our behalf, to say where's the money, and asking people that come campaign to you and tell them, where will you show me where the money goes, and making that a priority. Because honestly, if you don't know where the money went, I definitely don't know where the money went.
We're not that high up the food chain in the government.
I do think that every government, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alexya, please, but I do think that every government does set aside a standard fund for natural disasters.
That would be NEMO.
Pandemics, exactly. Pandemics and the like. What I think sets this particular pandemic apart from Zika and the others is that the widespread and at such a fast pace that, yes, we knew that it would eventually come to Belize, but we did not think that it would come so quickly. And this originated in Wuhan in December, and we just got a whiff of it in February, and then the country shut down in March. And honestly, that is not a lot of time to say, okay, we're going to set funds aside for this and this. I don't believe that we have that kind of superpower.
It's a learning lesson now. It's learning to
even though history has taught us that plagues happen.
As historians, archaeologists and anthropologists.
But
yes, like you mentioned.
And setting that aside in a fund that won't get touched and will keep growing and growing until we need it. But
the last time there was a global pandemic at this stage was 100 years ago. And I think the entire world was taken aback by it. I mean, even the countries that had communicable diseases break out were not prepared, because there was SARS, and after there was SARS, there was MERS, which is the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. And all of these things, these near brushes with pandemics, still did not leave those countries or economies prepared to deal with something at this global level that spread so quickly. And Belize is just the same as those. So while a fund is necessary, and I'm sure there's something for hurricanes, I am sure there's something for natural disasters and climate change, the entire world was unprepared for that. And the scientific community as well was. And so we cannot really hold our government to task for something that hasn't happened for 100 years. But we are sure that smart government would be prepared for something similar, or such a large disruption to the tourism industry. We would hope that our government would be prepared in the future.
Let's not forget. Yes.
Yeah.
So next question from Francis, also a long one. So I'm going to show it here. What can be done in our payment system here in Belize to make payment system like PayPal, Stripe, Payoneer work in Belize? I believe that's stopping e-commerce business to boom, just as how it stopped my business to coming to life. And we had already touched on this, but I think that Alexya, you can take it from here now.
I think that I'm not qualified to answer because I don't know how we would be able to get these institutions, other than demanding the people that we put in power to run this country to be able to see, well, this is what we need, and you have to find a way to do this, and they have the resources, they have the capability of making connections. They are diplomats, and so they can go to these other institutions and be able to say, this is what we want, how can we get there, how can we invest in this, because in the end it will benefit us, not only but it'll bring more foreign income. It's something that will pay for itself eventually as well. So it will be the smart thing to do. And part of my job where I work is I do have to try and make connections from people in Mexico trying to do work in Belize and these things. So we have they have an institution there that's supposed to represent them and supposed to do the research for them in another country. So it's also demanding that our foreign service that's away also be able to say, you know what, this is something that would be good for Belize, and presenting it and pushing for it and essentially doing their job. That's what they're out there to be able to help us grow and bring business back and be able to help us be aware of how we can grow from business abroad.
So thank you so much, Alexya. Go ahead, Sylvia.
No, I'll say, while we don't have the answers to those questions, perhaps it's, our next live will engage someone from the finance sector in Belize. If there are any volunteers who would like to help us out with a live in that way, please let us know, and then we can be better prepared to answer specific questions about, financing.
Well, we have a couple more questions, so I want to quickly get through.
Can we go through Victor's comment? Victor Morga?
Victor Morga. That's a long comment. I don't think all of it will show, but I can try.
I think, let me just go ahead and read it. It said that Belize has a huge debt bill that is not going down. What is your expectation of the future in regards to inflation on goods and stagnant salaries? I think that might be a question for economists.
Yes, that's a very good question. Do you have it so I can read it? Sorry.
Victor Murda.
All the way down?
812.
Furthermore, yes, there it is.
So we do have a big debt bill, and recently we have been ranked. So there's a country credit score system, and recently we have been ranked to being more than likely unable to pay our debts. So that's a big shocker for Belize. And then, but a lot of things that a lot of times we cannot get aid from certain countries because they consider us to be too wealthy to be able to receive aid. So they say, we rather help a country that's struggling more. And what does that tell us about our economy? That people are looking to us and they're seeing the money coming in, they're seeing that maybe we're not fully developed, but we are a developing country that has these resources to access funds. But what are they also seeing is that this money isn't being well spent. And so when it comes to inflation, I do think that it will we will be looking towards inflation very soon, because people's salaries aren't going up. I do think that in all the discussions, I do think that there is some people throwing out there raising the minimum wage to be able to, have people's salaries go up. But really, when that happens, then the price or the cost is then passed on to the consumer, which are the same people that are getting these higher wages. And so a lot of times right now people are surviving off of half a salary or no salary. So we can predict that, eventually right now, even the world right now is very production all around the world is down, and people are still trying to see how they can push. And maybe prices aren't going up right now because everyone doesn't know who will pay for what or how things will be paid for. But eventually, the prices are gonna go back up when everything opens up and people really look and say, you know what, the cost of this is costing more now. Then we will see inflation.
All right.
And
Thank
I
you.
think that's sort of, very sobering, especially for young professionals or people who are sort of just starting up into the job market, trying to be competitive in this economy. It's very tough to hear as someone who doesn't own a house for himself, who doesn't have any kids yet, that we are facing inflation, but that is the reality of where our country is heading.
And not
And
only
it is up to us to try to prepare as best as possible. I mean, what other recourses do we have?
Yeah, not only inflation too, but I can also see that a lot of times that sorry, the price of things are going up, but also the it comes into question also, like the value of our dollar. Like right now we have it pegged to the US, but it is scary to think that if our economy becomes so unstable that we have another threat, that it could lead to that we are for kind of pushed towards devaluing our dollar. And as an economist, you see that can have some positive impacts, but way in the future, because in the time being when that dollar is devalued, you have a big impact. You are unable to purchase things. It is a really hard adjustment to be able, or to even prepare for an adjustment like that. So that's just something too, that not only inflation, but we're also, risk the value of our dollar.
Yeah.
I have, I guess, a follow-up question from Mr. Faith. Let me put it on screen here. He says, given that many successive Belizean governments have shown and continue to show little interest in either being transparent with as many dealings as possible or in plunging back profits into the country as opposed to directing funds into private pockets, does having an economic plan that hinges on transparency or accountability even make sense?
Sorry, can you move up the question?
Of course.
Thank you.
I think
the thing is that I'll often say, they are going to be transparent, or we are going to be transparent or accountable, but they aren't. So it's like we don't even know what the effect of being transparent or being, held accountable for these things are.
I think the onus falls a lot on us Belizeans to demand that accountability and to not be complacent when the accountability is not given. We have seen the unions in these past days come out and ask for support and stand on that picket line. We've seen the University of Belize do that. We have seen a lot of social movements demanding sort of a fair playing ground between employers and employees. And that is just one way in which people have sort of stood up and said, this is what we are deserving of as Belizeans. And I think transparency and accountability will always make sense, and it will maybe not be accessible to us if we don't put our foot down as Belizeans and say this is what we demand and this is what we are willing to give also as professionals who do work in this in Belize. And that's the reality of it. Like Alexya said, we're not here to give, pretty comments. We're here to sort of look at things objectively and say accountability has not always worked under any political party. It has not worked regionally at times. It has not worked globally at times. However, there is, the onus on us as Belizeans to say this is when enough is enough, and by whatever means, peaceful means, we go about demanding that accountability of our leaders. That's largely up to us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have seen it time and time again in the past that the people are the ones essentially with the power to ask and demand that things be
and to vote,
given, and to vote. So
and to be abreast of this information as well.
Yes, please be informed as much as possible. Ignorance is bliss. And like we have mentioned before, there's so many outlets where you can find this information. So many companies that provide information. The government provides information. Heritage Education Network Belize provides information. I'm looking at the comments as we are starting to come to a close, and Ms. Sidele Leslie says that with regards to where the funds go, the central bank report on this, it starts around page 8. I'm going to just show it very quickly so that people can see who I'm referring to. And I guess click on the link for more information if that is essentially what your question catered around. And I mean, guys, we would love to stay here all day and chat about this. I am so honored that you chose to be with us tonight. But I think we have to put a cap on this wonderful. I mean, if you want us to have a part 2, let us know in our comments, in our page. Nag us on Instagram, nag us on Facebook. Check out our website at heritagebelize.org. If you have any questions, I mean, it's 4 of us that are on the that are the co-directors and founders of Heritage Education Network Belize. We have Rebecca, that right now she is in the United States trying to get home to us in Belize. Sylvia and I are here in Belize. We have Ella Bekeshi that is in Hungary. So really and truly, we are a 24/7 operating network. So we will answer your questions at any given time, whenever we can. So please, yes. Our email is heritagebelize@gmail.com, and find out how you can become a volunteer like Alexya. And we have other people that are so willing and so giving to help us out with all of this information. So guys, there really is no excuse.
And I think I just want to close off by saying that I'm really happy to see how people tune in to hear about the health updates of Belize and the COVID results and these things, and we have to take that want to know more about the economic plans and the data and information that's out there for Belize that's being released. The Statistical Institute of Belize releases every month a trade report, and they do quarterly GDP reports, and just being able to have these things out. And part of when I joined this group, I wanted to be able to bring these things more to light. So I'll also be contributing to blog posts to maybe recap the information that is released by Belize, to be able to have that available in maybe shorter or more relatable to people, to be able to be aware of what's going on in our country and in our economy.
Thank you, Alexya.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, for committing to help and to really bringing the economic perspective to us. Because really, we have 4 people who have wide variety of expertise in the cultural tourism sector, not so much in the economic sector. So
No.
we really, really do appreciate your sort of excitement and your commitment to helping people sort of understand these areas and to helping us understand really, and really to by volunteering with us, you're helping us help as many Belizeans as we can. That is the
Yes.
ultimate goal here, to make this information accessible to persons who probably don't have that accessibility or may have not seen that information. So thank you very much to everybody who tuned in.
And thank you for trusting me. And I think that in the week we also have a lot brilliant more people that probably
Yes.
have the answers that I don't have. So it really being giving a call to these people in a time where everything is online right now. We have webinars, we have talks like these. You know, being able to come out there and say your information and spread the knowledge.
Yeah.
Yes,
All
and
right.
this live stream will be available on our page. So if you missed it, you can always go back and watch it again and comment on if there's a question that you wanted or maybe an answer that you know. Please let us know so that we can be as informed as possible. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a safe and enjoyable weekend. Wash your hands, wear a mask, social distance, and we will see you next time. Thank you, guys. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.